Have you ever found yourself thinking, what do I need to change about myself so that he wants me? Perhaps not out loud, perhaps not consciously, but in a gesture, in a hesitant look, in a silence that swallows the will to say no, in every choice that bends to please someone who might not even be really paying attention. This has a name. Sartre called it bad faith. And it's not about lying to others. It's about lying to yourself. Bad faith is when you pretend you have no choice, when you act as if you were a fixed object, a thing with a clear function, to be desired, to be perfect, to be chosen. But you are not a thing. You are a project, a freedom in motion. And the great illusion that so many women carry is that to be loved, they need to fit into an invisible mold, into an idealized form that not even the man himself could describe. This illusion starts early. Since we are girls, we learn to read the signs. Don't be difficult. Men like women who take care of themselves. Don't scare him off. Play disinterested to seem valuable. It's a perverse game, and the prize is a love that never comes fully. Because you're not being yourself, you're performing. Sartre said, existence precedes essence. That means you were not born with a predefined role. You didn't come into the world with a destiny written in some celestial handbook. All you are is what you make of the freedom you received. When you deny that freedom to please someone, deep down you're denying yourself. And here is the uncomfortable truth. Many men, not all, but many, have learned to desire what comforts them, not what confronts them. And free, authentic, whole women confront. They don't fit into the ideal of the good girl. They say no. They look you in the eye and don't apologize for being who they are. This can cause discomfort. It can scare. But it can also awaken something rarer, true desire. Because male desire, when it isn't numbed by cultural expectations, is deeply attracted to the presence of someone who is not trying to please, who is not shaping herself, who is simply being. You may wonder, but what if he pulls away? What if, by being who I am, I lose that man? Yes, that is possible. But would you rather be accepted by someone who doesn't see who you really are? Or would you rather risk being desired by someone who looks at you as a whole person? Bad faith is comfortable. It gives you a role, but it also imprisons you. It says, stay quiet, smile, don't scare him. But freedom says, shout if you want, choose, make mistakes, start over. And in the end, it's that woman who dares to exist out loud who becomes unforgettable. The great illusion is thinking that being irresistible is about learning tricks, when in reality, it's about forgetting the tricks and remembering yourself. There is a specific, silent moment when you feel the weight of his gaze on you, not the look of desire, nor of affection, but that other one, more subtle and more dangerous, the look that evaluates, that measures, that seeks to fit you into a place he has already created in his mind. That's when something starts to twist inside you. You smile a little more than you'd like. Maybe you cross your legs, adjust your hair, change your tone of voice, all in fractions of a second. Small adjustments that seem natural, but that reveal a greater truth. You are not just being. You are trying to be perceived in a certain way. Sartre called this being for others. It's when you see yourself through the eyes of the other and start living under that gaze. You are no longer existing freely. You are acting. And worse, you believe that performance is you. In male psychology, a man's gaze often functions like a mirror that doesn't reflect but projects. He sees in you what he wants to see, and often not what's actually there. When a woman begins to exist with strength, clarity, authenticity, that mirror cracks, and the man finds himself facing something he cannot control. And that is new, frightening, but also fascinating. Think of 3 women. The first is the one who says no naturally, without explaining, without apologizing. She sets boundaries not to provoke, but because she knows what she wants. The second is the one who maintains her routine, her friends, her inner life, even when she's in love. She doesn't dissolve into the other. She doesn't disappear. And the third is the one who doesn't need to be saved. She cries, yes. She feels pain, yes. But she doesn't
transfer her emotional responsibility to her partner. She doesn't need crutches. She wants a walk side by side. These women are not trying to be irresistible. They simply are, because they chose to be true to themselves, and that directly impacts how they are seen. True male desire does not fall in love with a woman who adapts. It falls in love with a woman who challenges, who forces the man to leave his passive position, who forces him to choose and not just to consume. And here is the
essential point. When you position yourself as someone who chooses, you shift the dynamics of the gaze. He no longer has all the control. He is no longer the only one observing. Now he is also being observed, evaluated, chosen, or not. That changes everything. Maybe you expected those two words to be something like, I understand, or I'm here. Sweet words, comforting words that touch the masculine affection. But no, the two words that make you irresistible to any man are not directed at him. They are an intimate manifesto, a silent, brutal turning point. They are, I choose. Think of the weight those words carry. They encapsulate centuries of imposed female passivity. They break with the narrative that a woman must wait, please, adapt. I choose is the end of waiting. It's the end of seeking validation. It's the birth of a real presence. Sartre said freedom is not a luxury, it's a condemnation. We are condemned to be free. What he meant is that nothing determines who you must be. You invent yourself with every gesture, every decision, and that includes the decision to no longer live for the gaze of a man. When you say, I choose, something inside the other also moves, especially in the man who learned to be the center, because now he ceases to be the judge. He becomes someone who can, or cannot, be chosen, and that takes him out of his comfort zone. It forces him to exist with more presence, with more truth. In male psychology, there is something profoundly unsettling about a woman who chooses, because she is not just saying, I want you, she is saying, but if you're not up to it, I'll move on. And that, for a man, is an invitation or a challenge. It's the chance to grow or the risk of loss. And you? Are you ready to carry those two words with conviction? Are you willing to leave behind the version that expected validation? Because saying I choose is not just a phrase, it's a cut, a leap. It's giving up the illusion of control that comes from pleasing and embracing the anguish of freedom. When a woman looks at a man and says, even silently, I choose, she is not saying he is enough. She is saying that she is. And because of that, she can choose. And in the end, isn't that what truly makes us attractive? Not the desire to be loved, but the power to love freely, to desire consciously, to be, without needing to be accepted. Those two words aren't magic, they are truth. And truth, when lived with courage, has a beauty that can't be explained, only felt. There is a fine line, almost invisible, between seducing and manipulating. And many times we cross that line without realizing, not out of malice, but out of fear. Fear of not being enough, fear of not being chosen, fear of being alone. And in that fear, strategies are born. Games, formulas we learn from movies, magazines, friends. Wait 3 hours to respond. Be mysterious. Play hard to get. But what this reveals, in essence, is insecurity. It's the attempt to control the other's reaction instead of living the encounter as it is, unpredictable, free, authentic. And here is the fundamental distinction. Manipulation is born of fear. Authentic seduction is born of presence. The woman who manipulates is trying to guarantee an outcome. She acts with a hidden objective, to be desired, to be kept, to be confirmed. She watches every word, every silence, with anxiety, like someone testing a spell. And the man senses it. Even if he can't name it, he perceives it. There is something artificial in the air, an invisible discomfort that grows over time, an invisible wear. Meanwhile, the woman who seduces authentically isn't trying to control anything. She's not chasing a result. She's fully in the moment. She expresses desire without fear of seeming weak. She communicates without excessive filters. She doesn't adapt. She reveals herself. And this, paradoxically, is what most attracts. Deep down, male psychology responds to that type of woman with something that goes beyond physical desire. It responds with respect, with attention, with surrender, when he's ready for it, because she doesn't pressure him, she invites him. And the most powerful invitation anyone can extend is, you can find me here, where I am, who I am. That woman is not in a hurry, because she's not trying to hold anyone. She's busy being, creating, choosing. And that is exactly what disarms the man used to the game. He finds himself facing someone who doesn't play, and that demands of him a new stance, a new type of presence, a new type of masculinity. You may be asking yourself, how do I know if I'm seducing or manipulating? The answer lies in your intention. Are you trying to protect yourself from pain? Or are you expressing a truth? Are you trying to avoid abandonment? Or are you offering something real, even if it means risking rejection? Sartre said, freedom is the nothingness that separates us from being. That nothingness is the space between the impulse to manipulate and the choice to be authentic. It is in that uncertain, frightening void that true connection can happen. Because in the end, it's not about seducing to conquer, but seducing to meet. And only those who are not hiding find each other. Imagine a campfire in the middle of the desert. It burns alone, doesn't beg for attention, doesn't try to convince anyone to approach. Yet its presence is magnetic. It radiates warmth, life, intensity. That is how freedom manifests in a woman, like a living flame that doesn't need to be touched to be felt. There is something deeply instinctual in how men react to female freedom. It destabilizes them. Because for so long, freedom was a privilege men used to define themselves, while women were taught to wait, to follow, to nurture. When a woman emerges as a free being, she is not just breaking an expectation. She is saying with each gesture, I am not here to fill what you lack. I am here because I overflow. That freedom can show itself in many forms, in small, everyday details that at first glance don't seem revolutionary, but are. A woman who ends a date by saying, I'll think about it, instead of already expecting the next one. That shows she's not starving for validation. She savors the moment, but doesn't give herself away out of need. A woman who, even while in love, keeps her routine, her reading, her friendships. That communicates something powerful. My life didn't start with you, and it won't stop if you leave. A woman who knows her limits and communicates them calmly, without fear of seeming difficult. She's not seeking approval. She's tracing the contours of her dignity. These attitudes aren't tactics. They're expressions of freedom in action. And freedom is profoundly attractive because it points to something rare: integrity. When a man realizes you're not trying to trap him, that you're not bargaining away your essence for a place by his side, he feels he must rise to be with you. And that's when everything changes. Because most men are used to being desired by women who shape themselves. But faced with a woman who affirms herself as a project, as a presence, as a choice, he finds himself before an existential invitation. He must grow. He must decide. He must truly exist. And that is frightening, but also liberating. Sartre reminds us that every human being is a project toward the future. We are not ready. We are constantly making ourselves. A woman who lives this deeply, who doesn't pretend to know everything, but who walks with courage. That woman is a mirror hard to face, because she reveals all that the other hasn't yet had the courage to be. Freedom attracts because it carries a silent promise. If you want to be with me, you will have to become yourself too. And there is nothing more erotic than that. Imagine two women on a Sunday morning. Both woke up with the same flutter in their stomach, waiting for a message. Maybe a good morning, maybe an answer, maybe a sign that he is still there. The first woman spends the day checking her phone every 5 minutes. She rereads the last conversation, analyzes between the lines, tries to understand what she might have said wrong. The second woman also feels the absence, but she chooses differently. She gets up. She goes to the kitchen, makes coffee, opens the book she started yesterday. She also thinks of him, but not to stop. This subtle yet immense difference is what defines freedom as an existential experience. Waiting is a passive act. It's giving up your own creation of meaning and transferring it to someone else. It's placing the value of your existence on another's timing. When you live awaiting responses that don't depend on you, your life stops. And with it, your presence, your potency, your flame also stop. Sartre said, "Man is what he makes of what was made of him." If life taught you to wait, to please, to not pressure, fine. But what will you make of that now? The choice not to wait is a radical choice. It doesn't mean closing your heart. It means keeping it beating, even when the other is silent. It means saying, "Yes, I miss you, but my time is too valuable to be suspended in your absence." This is not pride. It is presence. It is recognizing that life goes on, and that you alone are responsible for keeping it in motion. When you don't wait, you act, you create, you decide, and this stance has a direct impact on male psychology. A man senses when he's not the center of your life. That doesn't drive him away, as they say. It summons him. He realizes you're not needy, you're whole, and that forces him out of passivity, to move if he wants to find you. But that movement only happens if it's genuine. If it's forced, it's manipulation. If it's true, it's choice. The woman who doesn't wait is not testing. She is living, and that is the most powerful way to attract someone who also wants to live, not just to consume presence. So I ask you, what have you stopped doing while waiting for someone to notice? You. What remained pending, frozen, stuck because of an absence? And more importantly, what would happen if, from now on, you chose not to wait anymore? Not out of vengeance, not out of pride, but out of respect, for life, for freedom. Choosing not to wait is declaring, "My life will not stop for anyone. And whoever wants to be part of it will have to walk by my side, not in front of me, nor pulling me back." That choice is not easy, but it is the beginning of an existence that does not bow. An existence that invites the other to exist too. There is a silent trap, perhaps the most dangerous of all, emotional dependency. It doesn't start with a scream, but with a whisper. It begins when you realize your mood depends on his response, that your day is good or bad based on how or if he reached out. It begins when you trade your desires for weights, your decisions for doubts, and your time for assumptions. Emotional dependency is not romantic. It is a prison built with small daily concessions, and worse, it is often mistaken for love. But love is meeting. Dependency is dissolution. It is when you begin to fade, hoping the other will illuminate you. Male psychology perceives this, even unconsciously. A man may feel flattered for a while, seeing you always there, always available, always waiting. But over time, desire cools, because desire needs space. It needs mystery. It needs two complete presences, not a fusion. Sartre said that true love cannot be a fusion of consciousnesses, because in trying to fuse with the other, you cancel your own freedom, and consequently destroy the love itself. What remains is control, fear, and a growing anguish that corrodes any possibility of an authentic relationship. Emotional dependency also generates bad faith. You begin to justify everything. He's busy. He's just like that. Maybe I'm demanding too much. But deep down, you know, you're losing yourself. You're living for someone who often isn't truly present. He's more in your imagination than in reality. There is a simple but brutal exercise to confront this trap. Right now, grab pen and paper and answer. What were the last 3 important decisions you postponed because of a man? It could be something big, a trip, a move to another city, a career choice, or something seemingly small, a course, a conversation, a meeting with friends. Write it down. Look at it. Feel its weight. Because it is in these postponements that freedom dies, and with it dies your potency, your creativity, your flame. You were not made to wait. You were made to create, to decide, to move. And when you return to occupy your space with presence, the other feels it, and he must choose. Come closer with truth or disappear. Both paths are liberating, because what holds you today is not him. It is what you project onto him. It is the idea that only through him you will be happy, complete, sufficient. But you already are. And perhaps deep down, you just need to remember that. To claim it, to choose it. Emotional dependency is the negation of your own existence. And freedom begins when you say, I come back to myself. There is a type of woman who doesn't explain herself. She doesn't chase, doesn't justify, doesn't beg for attention. She doesn't shout to be seen. She lights up by being whole. This woman is not perfect, nor cold, nor unreachable. She is human. She feels, suffers, errs. But she has chosen something that changes everything, no longer abandoning herself. Sartre reminds us that a human being is a project. That means you're never ready, never complete. You are always making yourself, with each choice, each refusal, each word you decide to say, and each silence you choose to keep. Being a project means accepting that life doesn't come with a script, that there is no fixed role to play. You are the one who writes the lines, the scenes, the twists. You are actor, director, and author of your own existence. And that is profoundly attractive. Because most people don't live that way. Most still wait, still shape themselves, still run from the responsibility of choosing. But when a woman appears in the world as a conscious project, in construction, but already vibrant, she becomes a presence that is not forgotten. This woman doesn't wonder if she's good enough. She wonders if she's being truthful. She doesn't want to be the best for someone. She wants to be whole for herself, and that choice changes her energy. She moves with a lightness that doesn't come from the absence of pain, but from the absence of submission. She doesn't carry the weight of pleasing. She carries the lightness of being. In male psychology, that activates something different. Men who are still trapped by patterns of control step away. They feel fear, discomfort, even anger. But men who are awakening to their own freedom draw near, because they recognize in her a mirror of what they also want to be. This woman doesn't live for a happily ever after. She knows life is made of cycles, meetings, learnings. She loves with surrender, but not with annihilation. She gives herself, but does not dissolve. She chooses, and therefore can love truly. And perhaps the most beautiful thing of all is that she's not trying to be irresistible. She's trying to be real. And in that sincere attempt, she becomes exactly what the other never forgets. In the end, the woman who most moves a man is not the one who says what he wants to hear. It's the one who lives what he hasn't yet had the courage to live. The one who walks, who errs, who laughs out loud, who chooses, who lets go. The one who doesn't wait, who doesn't beg, who doesn't fade. The one who knows, I am a project, and I will continue to make myself with or without you. And that is irresistible. Being irresistible is not a matter of formula. It's a matter of presence, of freedom, of choice. When you live as someone who says, I choose, without fear, without games, without rush, you transform the way the world sees you. You step out of the role of waiting and into the realm of creation. You stop being an object of desire and become the subject of your own existence. So, before seeking his gaze, ask yourself, what do you choose to be today? And if you want to go further, write in the comments which choice you have been postponing for fear of not being loved. Because perhaps, by writing it down, you finally see yourself. And when you see yourself, the whole world begins to see you too.